Did you know that the data we collect can reveal hidden patterns that shape our understanding of the world? Today, we are diving deep into a fascinating data set that uncovers insights you won't want to miss.
All right, let's dive into this data. We've got all these numbers, 7 in each row, and they're a complete mystery. Our job is to crack the code, figure out what they mean, what they tell us. Like deciphering an ancient language, but instead of hieroglyphs, we've got decimals.
It's amazing, though, even without knowing what each value represents, we can still find connections between them. It's like, imagine you're looking at a forest, right? You might not know the name of every tree and plant, but you can still observe how they interact, which ones thrive together, which ones compete for resources.
So each row in our data set, that's like a snapshot of a little part of the forest, and those 7 values tell us something about that specific spot.
Exactly. Now, you mentioned each row has 7 values, and what's really got my attention is that last one, that 0.0, 1.0. It's like a label, right? It's telling us something crucial about the combination of the first 6.
Okay, so let's say 1.0 means there's a rare bird nesting in that part of the forest. Now, it gets really interesting, right? Because we can look for patterns in the other values. Maybe a certain type of tree or specific amount of sunlight is always present when we see that 1.0.
And that's what makes this so powerful. We can start to predict things just based on the patterns in the data, even without completely understanding all the underlying reasons why those patterns exist.
So it's like I don't need a degree in forestry to figure out where that rare bird might be hiding. The data can guide me. But where do we even start with this? There are so many numbers here, it feels a little overwhelming.
Well, we can begin by looking for correlations. That means seeing if any of those first 6 values move together in a predictable way. For example, do they increase together? Do they decrease together? Are they always different?
So in our forest, maybe every time the height of a certain type of tree increases, let's say that's the second value, the number of ferns around it also goes up, maybe our 4th value. That would be a correlation, right?
You got it. Now, correlation doesn't automatically mean one thing causes the other, but it's a fantastic starting point. It tells us where to focus our attention, what to investigate further.
It's kind of like noticing that, every time I eat a strawberry, my nose itches. Doesn't mean the strawberry is causing it, but it's definitely a clue.
Right. And by finding and following these correlations in your data set, you start to see how these seemingly separate values connect to each other. You begin to unravel the bigger picture.
This is where my brain starts to get a little fuzzy, but in a good way. So we've got these 7 values, and the hunt is on for correlations between those first 6, especially how they relate to that final 0.0 or 1.0. It's like each row is a piece of a jigsaw puzzle, and we're trying to figure out how they all fit together.
And just like a puzzle, some pieces are more important than others, right? A strong correlation between 2 values, one that always seems to pop up with that final flag, well, that's like finding a corner piece. It gives us a solid place to start building from.
Okay, so the hunt for the corner pieces is on those super strong correlations that help us understand all this data. What's our next move?
So we're looking for those correlations, and one of the coolest tools we have for that is visualization. Basically, we're going to make a picture out of your data.
Okay, so like a graph.
Kinda, but instead of just 2 lines, we're talking about using all 6 of those values as different dimensions. It's a bit hard to picture, I know, because we're talking about 6 dimensions instead of just 3 we're used to.
Yeah, my brain's already starting to hurt a little.
I hear you.
Yeah.
But luckily, we have some math tricks and some really clever software that can help us squash it all down into something we can actually see on a screen without losing too much important information.
Okay, so we're simplifying things a bit.
Yeah.
But hopefully we can still spot those correlations, right?
Absolutely. And here's where it gets really neat. What if we color-coded each of those points on our graph based on that last value, that 0.0 or 1.0?
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So like all the data points where that rare bird was present, those with the 1.0 would be one color and all the rest another.
You got it. And if we see those colors start to form clusters, well, that's a pretty strong sign that those 6 values are linked to that final outcome in some way.
It's like imagine you're looking at a map of the night sky, and all the stars that are about to go supernova, they're all clustered together in one corner, glowing red.
That's a great way to put it. Visualization can reveal those hidden connections in a way that just staring at numbers on a spreadsheet never could.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So we've got correlations, we've got visualizations, any other tools in the Data Detectives Kit we should know about. So we've donned our detective hats, uncovered intriguing correlations, and even conjured up some fancy visualizations. What's the next chapter in our data deciphering adventure?
Well, picture this. A detective gathers clues and then groups them together looking for patterns and connections, right? That's where clustering comes into play in data analysis. We can use algorithms like digital detectives to group similar rows of your data based on those 6 values.
So rows that have similar values for those first 6 numbers, they'd end up in the same cluster, even if at first glance those similarities aren't super obvious.
Exactly. Think of it like sorting through a huge box of old photographs. You might start by size, then maybe color, and suddenly you realize you've separated them into family portraits, vacation photos, and, well, let's say pictures of your prized cactus collection.
Okay, I can see it. Clusters forming like photo albums in our data. So clustering helps us see those hidden relationships, bringing together data points that share something in common, even if we don't yet know what that common thread is.
You've got it. And this is where things get really exciting. Imagine discovering that within your bird data, there's this cluster where all the birds have high values for the first and fifth numbers, but low for the third, and they almost always change direction. That 1.0 flag we talked about. Boom, that's a pattern screaming for attention.
Like noticing a group of birds that always flock together, they fly at a specific height, make sharp turns at sunrise. We might not know why, but that consistency, that's a clear sign there's something meaningful about that particular behavior.
Absolutely. Clustering finds a spotlight on those meaningful groupings within your data. And by digging deeper into the characteristics of each cluster, we can begin to decode the hidden language of your dataset, understanding those patterns that shape it.
This has been an amazing journey. We started with what seemed like a jumble of random numbers, and now, using correlations, visualizations, and clustering, we're uncovering patterns, making sense of this data in ways I never imagined. It's like magic, but with less glitter and more math.
And remember, this is just the beginning. Every pattern you uncover will likely spark new questions, new paths to explore. That's the beauty of data analysis. It's an ongoing journey of discovery, always another layer to peel back.
So to our listener out there who shared this fascinating data with us, remember, those aren't just numbers on a page. They're clues, they're whispers, they're stories waiting to be told.
Yeah.
And with a little curiosity and the right tools, you have the power to unlock their secrets. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.